I'd like to start with a little message, something to say to the Los Angeles Rams. 2 words. You're welcome. I'd like to think that we spoke the best play of their Monday night performance into existence here on Cardinals Underground, brought to you by Pacific Office Automation. I mean, I don't think that's too presumptuous or out of line. Dani, Sureck, Darren, Urban, Paulie Podcast over here. How much time did we devote to discussing, pound for pound, the most entertaining play in football that never gets discussed because it hardly ever gets witnessed, and that would be the block field goal, right? The block kick. And what did Jared Verse do? Something that has not been done in Rams history. I'm looking at it right here. Since 1986, he blocked a field goal and then returned it 76 yards for a touchdown.
I'm just trying to follow. The Rams should be thanking us
Right.
for a game they lost.
We put it into the ether. You know, the football gods sort of got wind of it. And then
When
all
did
of
we
a sudden,
talk about that?
About blocked
Calais
field goals?
Campbell?
Calais Campbell,
Yeah,
2
that's
weeks
true,
in a
we
row,
did.
2 blocks. Remember,
LA lost. I don't think they're looking to thank anybody.
we equated it to like a triple in baseball. I'd much rather see Corbin Carroll with a triple and racing around the bases than, just another home run, 1 of 5 or 6 per game these days in the big leagues. It's stuff you never see that becomes that much more entertaining.
So you got your triple thrill. Is that what you're trying to say, Paul?
I'm just saying that if it wasn't for Jared Verse blocking a 37-yard field goal and then corralling it himself on a bounce off the turf and he gone 76 yards, I mean, was that not entertaining? Were you not entertained?
I was entertained. It did not change the fact that apparently the Rams will still be playing their starters against the Cardinals on Sunday's finale, even though they're essentially locked into what they're going to. Well, I shouldn't say that. I guess it depends on what happens Saturday with Seattle and San Francisco.
Yeah. But Sean McVay did declare, regardless of the seeding, that he's going to play the starters. Interesting. So, I mean,
is it really that interesting? I mean, it is interesting, but I mean, like, is it really that? I should say, is it really that surprising, given the fact they've lost 2 in a row?
Well, talking to a couple of Cardinals coaches before the Monday night outcome, they surmised that McVay would do exactly what he did last year because that's his precedent. That's his MO. He would sit his big guns. But all of a sudden you're on a 2-game bender, and all of a sudden maybe the boxers start to bunch. You're okay. Maybe it's more important to play good football than exactly who's playing football. So, all right, maybe we should be thankful for that as well, that you're going to see some of the stars.
I'm starting to think this is more like Thanksgiving. Are we near New Year's here? What are we doing here?
Or maybe, here's another hot take for you. Matthew Stafford walked into the head coach's office after the game and said, you know what? I'm obviously going to need to do more to win my first ever NFL MVP. Drake May went out with 5 touchdown passes, 6 touchdown drives in the first 6 possessions. New England put a 40-burger on the board. They're 13-3. They could clinch the number 1 seed. And I'm on national TV stinking up the joint. I better put, leave voters or the decision makers, I don't even know how they decided, a little better taste in their mouth.
I don't know Matthew Stafford personally, and I've never stepped foot in the Rams facility, but I'm going to take a wild guess and say that no, Stafford did not walk into his head coach's office and say, I want you to play me because I want to win MVP. If I had to guess.
These guys are competitive, Dani. Work with me. They're highly competitive.
Work with me.
Work with me. He's only a 3.
I'm trying to write a story here, Dani. Work with me.
As long as we're on this, and we'll get to Cardinals here in a minute. What sort of mind blow is it that he was the number 1 pick the year after Calais Campbell was drafted, and he's now only a 3-time Pro Bowler, Matthew Stafford, who is a legitimate MVP candidate this year?
It is crazy. The reality is it is hard to consistently get voted the Pro Bowl, whether that's from colleagues or fans, when your team is not winning. And he spent a lot of the early years of his career in Detroit where the Lions were not winning. That plays a role.
Sort of like, here's my segue to like a Joe Burrow playing for Cincinnati. A lot of seasons.
That's a good one.
Even though he has been to a Super Bowl and he's been to an AFC championship, but Joe Burrow, and man, give me your takeaways. What did Jonathan Gannon what did he say going into Week 17? For everything that Joe Burrow is, the arm talent, the accuracy, the timing, football IQ, he's really patient.
Yes. You could tell that Sunday because I don't think the Cardinals' pass rush or pressure was particularly effective, but the times they did get a little bit of pressure in there, it felt like Joe Burrow knew exactly where to move. Didn't have to move a lot, but moved plenty to stay out of harm's way and then deliver the football down the field.
For example, why was Matthew Stafford pedestrian and throwing 3 interceptions against Atlanta when he had 5 interceptions all season long? Dare I say, the offensive line, right? Missing their best offensive lineman, right guard Kevin Dotson, missing the left tackle, Alaric Jackson. So it is amazing when all of a sudden, I mean, how great these quarterbacks are and how pedestrian or worse they can look.
You're talking about Stafford, not Burrow, right?
Just Stafford. But the 3 sacks you're citing by the Cardinals, it was amazing. Burrow, all of a sudden, looked, like just a journeyman quarterback when you had Calais Campbell getting home. Next possession, you had
you're right.
Cody Simon on the blitz and Dalvin Tomlinson with a sack. But those were the only 3 sacks of the game, and they came within 3 minutes of each other.
Yeah, you have to be able to generate that kind of success and rhythm consistently. And it's great that Campbell had a 3rd down sack, forced Bengals to punt. And then on Cincinnati's next possession was when Simon and Tomlinson had consecutive sacks. You need more than that throughout the game, though. And so to have a bright spot is great if you're looking for bright spots. But this is a defense that got run all over by Chase Brown, a secondary that, Jamar Chase is as good as they come. T. Higgins is another elite wide receiver. That's a tough challenge. But the Bengals had their way with the Cardinals' defense. They had an offensive lineman almost score a touchdown on a 20-yard catch and run. It's great to talk about the sacks. It wasn't enough against not a playoff Bengals team, but still some very good Bengals players.
Yeah, Cincinnati did a real good job putting playmakers in space, forcing the Cardinals to make open field tackles. And I said this with Craig Grillo on Cardinals Cover 2. For anyone who was wondering, did someone do Budda Baker a courtesy making his 8th Pro Bowl? Just take a look at the state of the tackling minus Budda Baker. You take for granted how many open field tackles Budda Baker makes, how many touchdowns, how many chunk plays that he saves. It is they talk about skill players. Well, a really good open field tackler, in my opinion, is a skill player. That is a skill to take down an NFL, wide receiver 1, RB1 in space and do it solo, because obviously that was an issue against Cincinnati.
To be fair, tackling's been an issue the last couple of weeks. That's something we've heard from the coaching staff. There have been a significant number of running backs in particular who are not only shaking defenders, but they're just slipping right by them. And that's why we've heard tackling had to be better the last couple of weeks. But not having Baker out there in that open field tackling situation was definitely noticeable for Arizona.
All right, so what else did you guys see in Cincinnati? One of those games where, it's hard to believe that it was early mid-second quarter, it's 13-7, it's 16-7, and then by late third quarter, it's 37-7.
Well, you mentioned the Calais sack. That comes on 3rd down. Bengals punt. The Cardinals, in theory, not in theory, they had the ball with a chance to take the lead. And they went 3 and out. And unfortunately, of their first, I believe it was their first 7 drives, 5 of them were 3 plays and out. 2 of them were 5 plays. Now, one of those 5-play drives was the touchdown pass to Michael Wilson. But, that's barely anything. Other than the 70 yards they got on the Michael Wilson drive, of those 7 drives, I think they had 9 total yards, net yards. So that's we can talk about 3rd downs, which is what Jonathan Gannon talked about. The offense just never – against a defense that you thought they would have had some success with, the offense never got enough going when they had a chance to be in the game. They did some stuff on those last couple drives, but by that time it was way too late.
Cardinals did not convert a 3rd down until there was less than a minute to go in the 3rd quarter, and that pass to Trey McBride. In fact, to your point, Darren, at halftime, Jonathan Gannon came out of the locker room and was met by the sideline reporters, and he didn't need no stinking question. He just came out and said, the story of this game is 3rd down. We're not able to stay on the field, and we can't get them off the field. And then he said the same thing afterwards. And look, when Jacoby Brissett is pressured, according to the analytics, on a season-high 41+% of his dropbacks against a defense minus Trey Hendrickson, I don't think anybody saw that coming. Not after the week before when the Cardinals did a pretty decent job establishing a downhill rushing attack against Atlanta. You thought, okay, there was some opportunity going against Cincinnati, right?
offensive line who also looked good against the number one defense in Houston just a few weeks prior. Yeah, the Cardinals had the run game going the previous week, and then they go to Cincinnati and they run it for 42 yards. That's tough to win a game. This isn't the first week of the season where we're having this conversation of Cardinals were unable to get the run game going, and that forces you to be a one-dimensional offense, and the defense knows what's coming. Not to say that Cincinnati can't hold their own defensively. They're statistically one of the bottom teams in almost every category. And so when this Cardinals offense has the trio of playmakers in Trey McBride, Michael Wilson, and Marvin Harrison Jr., and you're not able to generate much, even to get to third down, that's where you got to start finding answers. And there's one game left, and none of the coaches were willing to talk big picture when they spoke to the media this week, looking into the offseason and big picture on how this season panned out and what they were proud of and what they wanted to improve on. But that's a great example of they know they have the pieces. So what are the challenges they're not able to overcome on a consistent basis week after week?
So at his locker, Jacoby Brissett met the media after the game in the visiting locker room, and I grabbed our TV mic and just filled in. And one of the questions I asked him was kind of a sparse crew there, and I just said, hey, when it comes to focus and mode of play, did you get what you were looking for? And he paused. He went, oh, and he's thinking how to best answer that. And he said, you know what? It was inconsistent. Wasn't always where it needed to be all the time. So there was that. Then I asked about whether they saw the cloud coverages that they got a lot of, especially against Trey McBride in Atlanta, and whether the Bengals went with a lot of that. And he said, not so much, although they did double Trey a lot, and they shaded towards Michael Wilson. So it doesn't take, a defensive genius to look at the Cardinals offense right now, Darren, and say, guess what? 85-14. Let's take them away and then see what else the Cardinals can generate offensively.
Obviously, that's how it's going to be. That's how it has been. And that's why you still got to find creative ways to get them the ball. Obviously, they got the ball to Trey a bunch late. Unfortunately, after the game was kind of already decided, Michael Wilson ended up having some decent statistics, but it was that 138-yard touchdown catch was pretty much all until he got a few catches late. So you got to find a way to make that click a little bit better. And I just think, Dani mentioned the fact that the Cardinals' offensive line held up pretty well against Houston. It was okay against Atlanta. It felt like they struggled quite a bit in Cincinnati, and that's why they couldn't run it, and that's why Jacoby Brissett was under a lot of pressure all day, especially on the outsides. I thought the tackles could have played a little bit better, and it's tough when your offensive line isn't holding up.
Yeah, they went from battling to at times struggling and sort of alternating in between those two states up front on the offensive line. There's no doubt about it. And once again, it's Yelda Froholt and 4 backups. At least that's the way the season started. 5 of 7 team captains not on the field and available for Jonathan Gannon. But again, getting back to McBride, and you mentioned the coordinators meeting the media, it was interesting to hear Drew Petzing say that at this point, defenses will change their identity and will change their schemes wholesale to make sure that Trey McBride doesn't wreck the game. I'm quoting him loosely on that. And sure enough, another game, another trio of records, including he sets the NFL record for catches in a season by a tight end, and then also the team record for most catches in a season period, 119, the new record in both categories. So what do you think you'll remember the most about Trey McBride in 2025? Here we are. New Year is right around the corner. I mean, just give some basic takeaways. And what was most impressive about number 85 this year?
We've seen the tangibles previously. We've seen the strong hands, the large catch radius. We've seen that it takes multiple defenders to bring 85 to the ground, and that he'll get you those dirty extra yards. What has stood out in my mind seeing McBride in 2025 is, regardless of the outcome, regardless of the string of losses, regardless of not being in the playoffs, you have not seen a drop-off in McBride's play or the passion or the fire he has out on the field. And that really elevates an offense, especially being without so many of their captains, 2 of whom, quarterback and the running back. And James Conner has always been the heart and soul of this offense. McBride has really stepped up in allowing his play to be that heart and soul, to generate that passion and that fire and fuel throughout a game for the offense. That's what has stood out to me about this year?
Obviously, this is a little bit selfish because this is like where my touch point is with Trey McBride. You know, obviously, all the things Dani said clearly stand out to me. The way he runs over people, the way he wants to dominate, the way he gets frustrated if he's not playing the way he expects to play. But the last couple of weeks, it's really kind of struck me because as we've moved closer to the end of the season and he's moved closer to these records, I mean, obviously people want to talk about him. And the bottom line is he's one of the positive things to talk about with this team, given how the season has gone. So his good works are something people want to enjoy. And as Jonathan Gannon said, you don't want to overlook them. But when you talk to Trey McBride, especially right after the game, like after the game in Cincinnati, like he did it because he needed to. You're asking about the records. He tries to talk about how cool it is, but he admitted at the time, I wish I could be more excited about this, but I can't because we're losing. And I think that's what sticks with me is, do I think he wants personal success? Of course. Do I think he ultimately is going to be happy he had these kinds of records? I think he will. But to me, it kind of radiates off him that the reason he wants these records is because he thinks that's one of the better ways for this team to be successful because he wants them to win games. And the fact that they're not winning games, I think, has really wounded him in a lot of ways. And he's not the only one. Michael Wilson's another guy who you're not going to find a nicer dude, but I think it feels like the losing has weighed on him as we've gone, even though he's had personal success.
And with Larry Fitzgerald advancing to the next stage of the Hall of Fame, we'll get to that in a little bit. That is the one element for both those guys that reminds me of Fitz a little bit. Just nicest guy off the field, can be real casual even on the sideline during a TV timeout, dapping up a ball boy, giving gloves to a Cardinals fan on the road in the front row. But as soon as he walks across that white line, look out, right? Assassin. And that's both Trey McBride and Michael Wilson, that competitive fire. That's really well said. The only other thing I'll add on McBride is just the degree of difficulty this year, seemingly. I don't watch the All-22 like AQ, but think of last year and the fact he had, 4 hurdles? Because he actually had room to work. He hasn't had any of that room this year, right? I mean, he actually was still being covered one-on-one. He was actually still able to shake a single tackler at a time. Now it's all hats to the ball when 85 is on the field. I mean, he's just getting smothered. He's still producing, but he doesn't have nearly as much room to work. Am I wrong on that?
You're not wrong. That's a great point as to why we're not seeing him hurdling, amongst other things like getting a massive contract extension in the offseason. Other good news, McBride found the end zone prior to week 18 from a receiving touchdown.
True.
So that's a big leg up from last year.
That's true. Okay. All right. You know what?
He's got 11 touchdowns. Like after all that talk last year, he's been one of the best in the league.
Mm-hmm. And isn't he tied with Puka Nacua going into this game for most catches in the NFL?
Yes. It'll be interesting to see as they go head to head at the end, especially when we're talking about how much the Rams will play. I don't see Trey McBride not playing the whole game. But you never know.
And the last we saw Trey McBride at SoFi, that ball was caroming off his helmet, right, for that fateful interception in the end zone, or it would have been a season sweep of the Rams a year ago. All right, let's get cultured. How about it? Dani, we'll segue to you.
Getting cultured with Dani. It is not just directed at Paul.
Am I the default uncultured Philistine around here?
Yes.
You got me very excited now.
I am on social media and consume more pop culture than both of you combined.
I think I'm being unfairly profiled, but go ahead.
Let's go. The final Getting Cultured of the year. So I thought we would recap 2025.
By the way, is that a cowbell at the very end there? Can I call it more cowbell? Is that cowbell there in the background? It is, right?
Sure.
I am not a musician, Paul.
We're just going to speed around through all of these and see what you guys remember. Just some highlights from 2025.
I'm guessing one of them already. It's Paul's favorite, right?
I don't even know what you're talking about. Okay. I didn't include Fast and Furious because we just touched on that last week, and that's what you're talking about. With
that reminds me.
Ronaldo.
Thank you for that, because I do have something to add on the Fast and Furious update desk. We'll hold that for a minute. Go ahead.
Just for the record, this isn't part of my recap, but someone in Arkansas did win the Powerball.
Yeah. I don't live in Arkansas, so whatever.
Really?
Yes.
Better not be one of the owners of Walmart. They have enough money.
Okay, here we go.
Zipping through them. Here we go.
2025 Getting Cultured recap. Katy Perry went to space.
Yep.
New Pope, Chicago native Pope Leo. The heinous Labubu trend. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce got engaged. The Coldplay canoodling scandal.
Oh, yeah.
6'7" was word of the year. Drake and Kendrick Lamar's beef, which had some top-notch diss tracks, led to a pretty great Super Bowl halftime performance by Kendrick Lamar. There was a brief TikTok ban. It was a bad season of Love Island, an okay season of Big Brother. The final penny was printed. 50 Cent launched a nuclear attack with a documentary on Diddy, who remains in jail. Luka Doncic was traded. There was an 18-inning World Series game. Mark Sanchez had an alley attack. And there was a Louvre heist in broad daylight.
Oh my God, you didn't mention to Paul his Tyson behind.
And we saw Mike Tyson's butt.
Wrinkled rear end. Wrinkled naked.
That was I like that one. That was good. Very nostalgic for 2025.
Yes, agreed. You both have learned so much. Just great pupils of pop culture.
Let the record reflect.
I still think he's an uncultured Philistine.
We did not get suckered into the latest Jake Paul fight. So just let the record reflect. We did learn our lesson.
Yes, we did.
It took decades, but we learned our lesson on not succumbing to the hype of another bad boxing sporting event.
For the final time of 2025, you both have been cultured. You're welcome.
All right. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. You're right. I should save my Fast and Furious update desk to winning behavior. Remind me a little bit later. I'm sure you will, because you can't wait to get the latest on that. Okay. So let me ask you this. Do we hit zoom out here a little bit? We talked about the O-line against Cincinnati. What do you think of, Darren, when we say O-line 2026, ... Where do you start? What sort of priority do you believe it'll become?
Oh, there's no question. I think that's going to be something that the front office looks very carefully at. But I'll be interested to see, from what I've noticed, and it's early, but usually it doesn't get better; it gets worse. I don't think the free agent market is going to be super populated with a lot of good offensive linemen this offseason. And at least at this early stage, and I don't want to break my own rules here, and I don't have any particular names, but I don't know if there's any. I'm curious to know how many next level offensive linemen are going to be available in the draft.
Okay. Well, those are two different questions.
They're all going back to the offensive line.
Yeah. But in terms of free agency, I agree. Buyer beware. If you think there's a franchise offensive lineman made available, either someone's derelict of duty, or there's extenuating circumstances, you better investigate.
But the reason I bring that up is because there's a lot of people pointing at the Bears and how they used free agency. They did draft a couple guys, but they got a guy in trade and a couple in free agency, and it's really made a difference. Well, that can happen. I just don't know if those players are available.
I wonder, and I don't know, this might be really myopic, but do you think offensive line play is valued more than ever after this 2025 season? And I know you're like, well, wait a minute. All the decision makers on 32 teams had an epiphany when it came to O-line play. Calvisi, come on now. But think about how it's more important seemingly than ever. A Chicago Bears team, what's the big adjustment they made? How is Carolina competitive again? Fix the offensive line. Think of Seattle, right? I had to admit I was brutally wrong about my assessment of Seattle's offensive line to A.Q. Shipley. He told me I was wrong. I didn't believe him, and I said it was going to be a disaster again for the 11th year in a row, and obviously it has not been. But teams that have failed on the offensive line this year, like the Lions, went from the number one seed to out of the playoffs, mainly because of the offensive line in a lot of ways. So I don't know, do you think it's just been a constant reminder this year, the value of an offensive line and hence offensive line men?
I don't think it's been an epiphany per se. This is just a year where you've seen teams who have really put an effort and put money into bolstering an offensive line because they have a quarterback they believe in, and a quarterback they believe can elevate that organization if he has a cleaner pocket and isn't getting hit as often. You're seeing that pay off. It's somewhat of a wave, and I think Detroit's a great example of you have these players and you win and you can't pay everybody. So every organization kind of goes through this cycle of who are you going to keep? Who are you not going to keep? Where can you feel like you can be okay even if you're a little thinner at this spot than the previous year? And that's a great example of the offensive line in particular. I don't think it's anything new. I think when you're talking about Cardinals specifically and you're looking at the slew of injuries and even prior to those, how difficult it was for them to run the ball nearly as efficiently as they did last year, it's a good reminder of offensive line can make a difference. And despite it being mostly the same starters from last year, that's a good reminder of how good this offense was because they were running the ball so well.
I'm going to, I know this will shock you, Paul. I'm going to disagree with you in terms of I just think that offensive line has always been, it's always been important. Now, whether a particular GM or GMs have downplayed it or thought they had a workaround to be able to get really good ones, that's a whole different story to me. But in terms of the importance, the importance has always been there. And the question becomes, again, how much of it is the players themselves? How much of it might be the scheme? How much of it might be the skill guys behind them? I don't know. In terms of how some of that went, it is odd to me, and I know there's been lots of theories, and I don't think there is any one reason why, but it is odd to me that this group played pretty well last year and doesn't seem to have played as well this year. But this year has been so weird on so many levels in terms of things that have been successful not being successful. I have trouble wrapping my head around it, to be honest.
I will say it's not. We haven't even hit the offseason, and it's not great to be reminded off the bat that this is, from what draft analysts are saying early on, it's not a offensive line heavy draft, not expecting to have a lot of top star talent offensive linemen in free agency, and that's a position room, one of a few, where the Cardinals have decisions to make. Left guard Evan Brown is entering the final year of his deal. Right guard Will Hernandez, who, yes, is hurt, this is the only year of his contract. Right tackle Jonah Williams, this is the final year of his contract. Swing tackle, who's now your starting right tackle, Calvin Beachum, this is his only year in the contract. There's a lot of decisions one way or the other that the Cardinals have no choice in making. That is absolutely a position room. Again, before we've even had the final game of the 2025 season of what's a position room that you have your eye on of what moves are going to be made, offensive line is up there.
So let's look within then. At the end of the Bengals game on the visitors' side, Joe Burrow was doing his press conference, right? And some media pencil neck piped in with, geez, Joe, what about, carryover, and talking about a winning streak at the end of this year, and can that carry into next year? And Joe shut him down and said, look, here's what I believe. Personal growth is transferable, quote, end quote. Don't give me confidence, don't give me momentum, but he said personal growth. And we threw that at Jonathan Gannon in his weekly TV show Game Plan, and he said, absolutely, totally agree with Joe Burrow on that one. So I bring that up because, to Dani's point, if pickings are a little thin in the draft, although, and I'm tried to resist mock drafts already that are starting to pop up, sort of like I resist Jake Paul and boxing pay-per-views. But the Utah right tackle has been most associated with the Cardinals, if I'm not incorrect on that.
Yes,
and
I have seen that.
All right, so let's just say that's the pick at right tackle, and would make sense.
We're talking about draft.
A lot of different things.
December 30th.
So then, Paris Johnson Jr. is back. Yelda Froholt is back. I'll knock on wood on that one. So that leaves you with the two guard positions. Let's just say, here it's not even 2026 yet, but personal growth is transferable. Can we use that quote from Joe Burrow to talk about John Gaines and Isaiah Adams? And do you think, the final scene in Friday Night Lights? Of course you do. The movie with Billy Bob Thornton.
I only watched the series. I didn't get through the movie.
I figure I'll bring up Billy Bob Thornton.
You didn't get through it?
I watched the series first, and then I tried to watch the movie. I didn't like it as much.
Whatever.
I didn't finish it.
You
asked.
I know. It was a mistake.
I thought that was like a state requirement in Texas. You had to watch Friday Night Lights.
I watched the series.
By the way, quick aside.
Yeah.
Did you see the video of where Ohio State is practicing for the Cotton Bowl?
No.
It is this amazing indoor facility, and I'm looking at the tweet, and it's a facility at a high school. It's a high school facility. Oh, I don't remember. Check Albert Breer's Twitter feed. He had 11 Warriors, the Ohio State website, sports website, was the one who was covering it. But they were showing video of these guys in there, and it looks like a college indoor facility or what we've seen with the Broncos or the Colts, and it's a freaking high school.
That's one of the great episodes of Friday Night Lights, the TV show, where the booster club raises like $100,000 and they want a jumbotron at the high school stadium, and then the principal tries to usurp the money to buy books and other stuff for academia, and then they got the principal fired because they wanted to build their jumbotron. But that's an aside. Very end of Friday Night Lights, the movie, the last scene is Billy Bob Thornton, the head coach, after the state championship game, and he's got the names on the magnets and the depth chart on his wall, and he's flipping the old players out into the basket and moving up the other players. So are you moving up the little magnet with the name Isaiah Adams and the name John Gaines?
I kind of like that
into
little analogy there.
Starting guard positions at this point. Have you seen enough of this personal growth is transferable from one season to the next, per Joe Burrow, to go ahead and,
More so with Isaiah Adams, who's played more. I mean, John Gaines has started 3 games, and we've mostly seen him at center up until this point when he needed to shift over to guard. So I would say no. Have you seen good things from Gaines? Yes. Can I sit here and earnestly say that I see enough for him to be a starting left guard? No. And for the record, they are practicing at Highland Park High School, which is in a very nice area of Dallas, and also the alma mater of Clayton Kershaw and Matthew Stafford.
Wait, Clayton Kershaw and Matthew Stafford went to high school together? I'd never heard that.
Okay, you're being facetious, and I don't know why you're coming at me. You asked, and I'm giving you the answer.
Jerome Bettis is from Detroit also.
Darren, this is bad karma. You're playing Matthew Stafford this week. No snark from you. No snark. Don't trigger him. Nothing, okay? Don't poke the bear. We don't need any of that around here. My goodness, okay? Tread
goodness.
Lightly. Tread lightly over here. Let's see here. So, O-line, any other contenders, anything else or anyone else you have seen that, you care to speculate on? If there's reckless speculation, now's the time to do it when it comes to the offensive line. Anything else that we want to know about? No?
I mean, not that I can think of off the top of my head. Again, I think all parts of this team are going to be evaluated very closely, and that's what happens when you have a season like this. And I think this offense needs to find a way to click more. They have not scored nearly enough points. There were definitely some high points here and there, but never any kind of consistency to what people were expecting.
Okay. Before we go to Wise Guy and I take another L on this thing, let's talk about change and next season. And our first indication as to where things might be trending towards next season might be Monday morning after Week 18. And Jonathan Gannon, among other things, was asked just about where he thinks he stands in the whole equation. His comment that he, quote, feels good about being back in 2026. Doesn't mean, to Darren's point, there won't be change. There will be change. And if you go through the entire press conference on this Monday to start the week coming off the Cincinnati loss, he uses the word change a lot. Like, if you go and transcribe the press conference, says, you know what, through adversity, we got to change. I have to change. Later, he says, look, anyone in this business knows it's adapt or die. He brought that up on his own. We've had...
Is that anything like the New Hampshire live free or die? Sorry.
We've had adversity. We better adapt. I can't multitask here, Darren. I'm just trying to go through and just cite all the times he used the word change, adapt. Well, so I'm wondering, is he setting the table in some ways, ... Is he letting everyone know that, guess what? There will be change, and it might happen soon.
Not to, take Darren's reign here, but Paul, they've won 3 games. I'm being a little pessimistic here, Darren.
Okay, you can do whatever
Paul,
you want.
They've won.
You're a grown woman.
They've won 3 games. It would be malfeasance for the head coach to sit up there and not talk about the fact that there needs to be change, whatever that's going to be. He's never going to sit up there and say, these are the specific changes I'm going to make. And we have no clue. Trust me, I've had plenty of people ask me what the Cardinals are going to do on a range of topics, and we have no idea. There's still a game to be played. And there's many different ways that trying to figure things out and right the ship can be tackled. But I think that it would be more problematic if Gannon sat up there and didn't mention needing to adapt, didn't mention needing to make change, because it's very clear that something went wrong this year, especially when you're looking at last year where they had doubled their wins from 4 to 8. They were more competitive within the division. And then you're at a point where, whether it's because of injuries, whether it's because of a million different reasons, we were sitting here, I was sitting here, And I truly believed at the start of the season that the NFC West was the Cardinals' division to lose because of the consistency, because of what we had seen from 2024, because of the pieces they had been brought in. And this is not the season anybody expected this team to have. I think it would be more concerning if Gannon sat up there and didn't mention adaptation or change.
Darren, you're agreeing with that?
Well, first of all, big props to Dani for using the word malfeasance.
Thank you.
It's not quite extrapolation, but we'll take it. I think I would agree, yes, that the fact that, the change has to happen. You have a season like, first of all, any coach that isn't winning the Super Bowl, you're probably talking about some kind of change, even if you make the playoffs, even if you go deep in the playoffs. But especially if you're going to end up with a top 10 draft pick, you're going to talk about change. Now, what that looks like from his seat as we sit here with one game to go, what that looks like from his seat next week, there's still a lot to be changed. And I know, I think there's a little bit of frustration when you're talking to coaches basically for the final time in the regular season, and you're not going to get a chance to talk to them again, which has to do, the assistants and the coordinators, you don't get another chance to talk to them after the season, and you want to talk about the season as a whole because that's your last chance, and they don't want to. And I get where they're coming from. There is a certain amount of that, and even for us, like I talk about this all the time. It's like the draft. Like I don't want to talk about the draft right now. We haven't even gotten to January 1st, and you know what? We're going to be doing this every week. We got plenty of time to talk about the draft. I don't want to burn it up right now.
Yeah. Okay.
So I get that to a certain extent, but now is the time when everybody's going to start thinking about the future. I do think obviously there's change coming. What that looks like, to Dani's point, I don't think we really know. I don't think everybody really understands yet. There might be one person, maybe the owner, who understands exactly what he wants to do, but maybe not. Like we'll find out what happens, and then we will talk about it on a weekly basis.
And you're not wrong. Change is the norm. I mean, look within the division. Sean McVay 2 weeks ago fired his special teams coordinator, middle of the season. Kyle Shanahan, the last 3 years, has gone through 3 different defensive coordinators. Finally settled again on Robert Saleh. Mike McDonald in Seattle fired his offensive coordinator after 1 year. So, change happens.
I mean, when we were sitting here doing the podcast right before the end of the regular season last year, we were talking about changes they need to make, and they ended up making big ones. They ended up overhauling the defense in that case. So, like, again, and that was in a season where they were in first place 10 games into the year and kind of fell apart at the end, and you're looking for a big year this year, which obviously didn't happen. But, like, again, the changes are going to be made. The question is to what level are they made? How great of a change does happen? And obviously the number one, we got to figure out exactly everything that's going on. I know that Jonathan Gannon sounded very confident in terms of being around going forward. And so when all that happens, or however that happens, like the number one story of this offseason is what the quarterback position looks like next year. And, we will very quickly get to that subject after the offseason starts. And then we will, this is a quarterback-driven league, so we can talk about whatever else we want to talk about. The quarterback is still going to be the most important thing, whether it's going to be Jacoby Brissett back there, or Kyler Murray back there, or a draft pick back there, or, I don't know, Joe Montana back there. I don't expect Joe Montana to come back. I don't expect Tom Brady to come back. We haven't talked about Phillip Rivers. Maybe that'll be in play.
Unless my father, my 87-year-old father, is the decision maker. He's still mad that the Niners moved on from Joe Montana for Steve Young back in '94.
The fact is that we have somebody in house, good old Robert, who's friends with Tom Brady and his family. So maybe he can put in a good word.
All right. Well, most specifically, we have another game to go. We have another edition of Wise Guy to go as well.
It's time for The Wise Guy, the world's fastest growing Cardinals quiz show. The stakes are low, the winner gets absolutely nothing. Here's your hostess with the mostest, Dani Sureck.
Happy last Wise Guy of the season, everybody.
I'm going to try not to tear up.
Maybe to some of you. I do put the absolute into absolutely nothing. There's no doubt about it. I've had a 3-win season myself. What kind of changes can I make? Let's find out.
Darren,
number
our
one.
reigning champ.
Number one.
Here we go.
I'm number one.
He was number one. You guys don't understand that reference, probably. Okay, this former Cardinal safety from NC State was the brother of one of the main playmakers for the St. Louis Rams during the greatest show on turf era. Who is he?
Terrence Holt.
Correct. Brother of Troy Holt.
Although I heard safety in NC State, and I wanted to say Adrian Wilson, but
Good thing you didn't.
I knew it wasn't him.
Paul, are you going with number 3?
Absolutely not. Number 2. I mean, number 3 is the third rail. Put it that way.
It's haunted Paul this season.
You know what? That is, you want to talk about adaptation?
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
You did that, Paul.
Adapt or die, Paul.
Yeah, you stopped going for question 3.
Yeah. Well, I'd rather adapt from losing to winning, but let's go.
Well, let's see.
One step at a time.
Larry Fitzgerald recorded his first NFL catch on a flea flicker during the 2004 season opener against the St. Louis
All right,
Rams.
I got a Fitz question. Here we go.
That play directly involved 2 current Hall of Famers, one playing for the Cardinals and one for the Rams. Name them both.
Okay, I was so excited about getting a Larry question. I'm not sure I heard
Didn't
the
even pay
entirety.
attention, did
One
you?
more time. His first touchdown
I know the
catch,
answer,
flea
everybody.
flicker involved. Who exactly did it involve?
Paul, lock in.
Okay.
Larry Fitzgerald recorded his first NFL catch on the flea flicker during the 2004 season opener against the St. Louis Rams. That play directly involved 2 current Hall of Famers, one playing for the Cardinals and one for the Rams. Name them both.
Kurt Warner, Aeneas Williams.
Wrong.
No, come on!
Emmitt Smith and Aeneas Williams.
You're half right, Paul. Darren gets the
Kurt
steal.
Warner did not arrive in Arizona until a season later.
You're still in it, Paul.
All right, here we go.
Okay,
I'm
Darren.
going 3.
Ooh, the dreaded 3.
I do not remember Larry playing with Emmett. Oh my gosh. Okay.
This 1970s to 80s crime drama was set in Los Angeles and starred Eric Estrada and Larry Wilcox. The show regularly featured police chases and over-the-top freeway pileups.
Just name the show?
Yes,
Chips. It's the greatest show ever.
if you say so. That's correct.
Paul's wishing he picked 3.
You don't like TV show questions.
He knew Chips, though.
Oh my gosh.
Did
All
you know
right.
Chips?
Yes, I knew
Of
Chips.
course
yes,
you knew.
Yes, yes.
Okay, Paul, here we go. Formed in Los Angeles in 1991, this band was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2023. Popular songs include Know Your Enemy, Sleep Now in the Fire, and Bulls on Parade. What band is it?
You mean Beach Boys didn't do Bulls on Parade? I mean, oh my gosh. Why am I having a mind blank on Rage Against the Machine? Thank you.
Hey, correct.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
I wouldn't have known
It took me a moment. I'm not sure why, but it did.
So in our final Wise Guy, Darren is the winner, which I'd have to look at all my little tally marks. I believe the final score is 15-3.
I have a
which you
question.
actually improved from last year, Paul.
Is there a red challenge flag? I'd like to throw a red challenge flag for just a moment.
You know what? You
Was
can do what you did.
Aeneas Williams on the field for that Larry Fitzgerald
Are you
touchdown
going to
catch?
question his memory?
Not only was he on the field, he was one of the 2 defenders that went up to try and knock it away.
So why wouldn't my answer be correct?
Because you said Kurt Warner.
Oh, okay.
You were half right.
All right.
Now, you
Gotcha.
could do what you did last year every week, although you were never successful, and challenge Darren to a winner-take-all.
No.
Okay. I'm trying to help you,
I've had enough losses. Cody knows this.
No.
I can't pick a game to save my freaking life anymore. I was 8-7 this week. Paul is now taking the lead by 1 game because he was 9-6. Dani was 10-5. Going into the final week, Paul 153 wins. I've got 152 wins. Dani 145.
But remember, Paul can't win because he cheated with ChatGPT that 1 week.
I'm excited for the one off-season podcast where we're going to talk all AI.
Ugh, I'm busy.
Dani, have we really accounted for your roller coaster season, Dani? You know,
Me?
the ups
I've
and the
been in
downs.
third place with the exception of 2 weeks.
I mean, out of nowhere, a very difficult week.
you are projecting onto me hardcore right now, Paul.
You had 10 wins. Very impressive.
and I'm still in third place, so why do you care?
I'm just wondering.
I don't think she's making up 8 games on you, Paul.
No, I'm just
Watch
curious.
me.
It's just, by the way, one change, addition by subtraction. Next year, Wise Guy out. I need to, oh my goodness.
I do think we are going to be I don't know. I think we might make some changes. We got to keep this fresh around here.
Yeah. Okay. Where's the segue on that? Here we go. Rams are going to play their starters, right? We already talked a little bit about that.
That's true.
Let's get a Fitz mention here, or I don't get it wrong. So I'm going to tell you right now, you can go ahead and make plans for late July in Canton, Ohio. You two will be going to the Hall of Fame game.
Field trip.
Now, for all you know, we all will be there when the Cardinals get invited.
Yeehaw.
In fact, I'm old enough to have remembered the last time the Cardinals were in Canton, and Larry Fitzgerald was on that trip. And it was funny because Larry, at that point in his career, wasn't exactly a fan of having a fifth preseason game. So once Larry gets inducted into the Hall of Fame, can't wait to give him the business over subjecting us to a fourth preseason game, because it's going to be a Fitzapalooza in Canton, Ohio, around the Hall of Fame in about 6 months or
He's
so.
one of the 15 finalists. Who else do you expect to be as close to guaranteed as it can be at this point? First ballot.
Drew Brees.
Drew Brees.
Yep. Drew Brees, and I'd say that's in terms of guaranteed, because there has to be at least 3, and there can't be more than 5.
Correct. And again, the tough part is when they get down to 7, every voter has to pick up to 5. You don't have to pick 5, but pick up to 5 of the 7. But everybody who gets in has to get at least 80% of the vote. So because you split it up, and people can have some leeway there in terms of who they're choosing, it's a lot harder to get 80% than maybe it used to be.
Okay, so you're asking for my opinion. Thanks for asking. The other finalists are tight end Jason Witten. Nope. Frank Gore. Yes. They're the other 2 first-year eligible players. Now, among the finalists from last year, automatically included into the finals this year, Willie Anderson, nope. Torrey Holt, nope. Luke Kuechly, yes. Adam Vinatieri, absolutely not. And then there's 6 other returning finalists Eli Manning, Reggie Wayne, Jari Evans, Marshall Yanda. All right, we're going old school there. T. Sizzle.
Former Cardinal.
And
everybody remembers those big 14 games.
And another ASU All-American, Darren Woodson. So they've all made it back to the final 15.
Team Darren.
So once again, I'd say Larry, Drew Brees, Luke Kuechly, and Frank Gore. That'll be your 4. That's what I'm going with.
Does Bill Belichick get in with on the coach's side?
Oh, yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Girlfriend sighting.
Here's a picture of that first catch, in case you weren't sure about it.
Show it to the cameras for those watching on YouTube.
There it is. My goodness. Okay.
How dare you question Darren's memory?
Josh McCown.
Yep. All right.
Kurt Warner was in New York that year, by the way, Paul.
Actually, you're right, because that's when Bertrand Berry got him for 4 or 5 sacks.
It was
4 sacks, right?
4
sacks.
And then
that's right. Dang it.
And the Giants coaches were in the next door to the radio booth pounding the thing, saying,
right.
"Throw the ball, Kurt! Throw the ball!"
Paul, your New Year's resolution for 2026 should be to study up for Wise Guy. Just watch more TV shows.
Mm-hmm. Maybe some.
Can we clip that? Because that was the most condescending I've ever heard.
I need some performance enhancers. Is what I need. Some sort of memory.
Too much information.
Take your memory. All right, Seahawks Niners. That's going to be Saturday night. I'm sure you guys have. All right, Dani, are you going to have a watch party for Seahawks Niners to decide the division, or for the finale of Stranger Things?
Well, the finale for Stranger Things comes out before Saturday. I'm hoping to have watched it by then. Otherwise, everything will be ruined for me online. It is a really good final season. Why are you looking at me like I'm crazy?
Because I thought you were going to say something like, "I'm going to be in LA. I can't."
Oh, I am going to be in LA.
We're gonna celebrate watching Seattle and LA with Matt Vasky.
Yeah, Matt's final road game. Miss y'all already.
Cheers, Matt.
Oh, we said there will be change. Love you, Matthew. Oh, my goodness. All right. I tell you what, let's get some winning behavior, because
I'm really excited to hear about this update.
Fast and Furious.
No, we have
I've been waiting.
Fast and Furious news you can use in winning behavior.
I see you. Let's go.
Can you display winning behavior? You have to consistently display winning behavior.
That's winning behavior.
You got to define what winning behavior is and hold people to that standard.
Yes.
Actually, it was good to hear the accountability from A.Q. Shipley in the TV studio yesterday. Dani, did you hear where he took accountability for eating, it was either 2 or 3 entire containers of Pringles
Yes.
So he owned all the trans fat that he consumed. So it was good. Accountability. Like to see that from the Cardinals' first-year radio analyst. So life imitating Fast and Furious. Do you see where thieves, this is in Texas, Dani, on Christmas Eve, thieves stole an SUV, drove up to a convenience store, ran a chain from the bumper, hooked it around an ATM in the store, said, everyone get away, and get away they did. And they hit the gas and ripped the ATM straight out the window of the convenience store out onto the road. Cops gave chase. The ATM broke free, and the robbers, the bad guys, actually got away in the stolen SUV. But if you remember the one Fast and Furious, I think it was set in Brazil.
I don't remember. I've never seen it.
They hooked up their 2,000 horsepower sports cars, and they stole a vault right out of like Brazil's Federal Reserve.
Spoiler alert.
And then they went and they dragged a vault through the streets.
All the signs say they don't have any money in there.
I enjoyed the fact that the ATM got away because I know it was working really hard to get away.
Dani, don't say there's nothing there because life imitating Fast and Furious example number 2, a bank in Germany. Robbers used a large drill to go right through the side of the building and into the vault room. They stole cash, gold, and jewelry worth about $35 million.
That's not Fast and Furious. That's Louvre.
Yeah, imagine what they could have done with the Louvre password being password 123 on the security footage.
You don't need no stinking password when you have an Elon Musk, drill. You can just make your own tunnel, just go right into the bank vault and then make your own escape. And then I'll localize it because, it's late, whatever the local news is these days. You got to bring it home. My son last year on his team had a teenage driver who decided he was going to drift through the support beams of the covered parking in the high school parking lot.
Real quick, I assume this is non-winning behavior?
Non-winning behavior.
Okay.
They tried to warn him, you're not a stunt driver. This is not a movie set.
Who's they?
Some friends of his.
Okay.
And they all stood there. But he said, I'm going to drift and actually slalom through the support beams of the covered parking in the open parking lot. He didn't even make it through the first beam. Head-on collision totaled the car and broke his arm.
Ooh.
So lesson learned for that 16-year-old driver. You are not
there
a
goes my
stunt
plans
driver
this
from
weekend.
Fast and Furious.
In LA.
Dani, what your plans are going to be is drinking a bunch of champagne for multiple championships. Am I incorrect on that?
You are not incorrect,
Okay.
Darren. Thank you so much for bringing this up so I didn't have to. Yes, the rumors are true, ladies and gentlemen. I did win not one, but two, both of my fantasy football leagues this year. I had never won before, and then when I win, I just go for the money.
I appreciate the fact that Dani was so humble that she made sure it was out on social media and basically preemptively beat down anybody who wanted to take her down a peg and basically said,
Absolutely.
I am King Kong. Hear me roar.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
I said something along the lines of, I'm not saying I'm better than all of you, but I did win both of my fantasy football leagues, so it's implied.
Okay. All right. So in terms of act like you've been there before, you just said the heck with that. And
To heck with that, Paul.
You just tweet out your own flex/press release. Is that what you're saying?
100%. In one of my leagues, my family league, I had Derrick Henry, who put up 48 points. That's the league where my dad, our valued listener, came in last place, which means when I go home next, his car will have a license plate cover that is pink and glittery and will say, I suck at fantasy football. It's being shipped from my uncle, who had it this whole last year in Austin, to my dad in Dallas.
Can always get worse.
Absolutely.
And it just did.
And that is winning behavior by me.
Okay.
Speaking of winning behavior in fantasy football, did you guys see the winning behavior of Malik Neighbors doing the IHOP commercial?
Yes.
That was quality.
That was
winning
great.
behavior when he gets in there and he basically allows a commercial to be said with all these people ripping him for getting hurt and costing them fantasy football wins.
The little kid then goes up to him and says, are you Malik Neighbors? I wasted my first round pick on you.
That is good. Myles Garrett said the Steelers were all about something other than winning the game.
Yeah, I mean, basically he's trying to get the sack record, and he basically implied, a lot of Browns were kind of implying that the Steelers cared so much about stopping him from getting sacks, they didn't play the regular offense, then they end up losing to the Browns, and now the Steelers have to play the Ravens for a win or go home game on Sunday night.
Okay. So for stopping Myles Garrett, now you have to stop Derrick Henry with the playoffs on the line. So there you go. All right. And then MVP race, we covered this a little bit.
We did.
The whole Matthew Stafford, Drake May, right? I mean, is there any other candidate who's even in the stratosphere?
Trey McBride. Okay, maybe not.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So anything else we
I just got to throw
here?
in the NFC South race because nothing says winning behavior more than the NFC South. If the Falcons can beat the Saints this weekend, the supposed game between the Panthers and Buccaneers that is supposed to determine the division winner will end up having no meaning, because even if the Buccaneers beat the Panthers to go to 8-9 and make the Panthers 8-9, which was supposed to put the Bucs in, the Falcons will also be 8-9. And if all three tie, the Panthers get the playoff bid. So even if the Buccaneers beat the Panthers, if the Falcons win because they beat the Rams, the Bucs are out.
But the Falcons have already been eliminated, just as a
They've been
refresher,
eliminated
right?
for like a month.
Okay, just want to be clear, because there seemed to be some confusion, in the NFL stratosphere that the Falcons somehow are making a late charge. But okay.
But I'd be excited to have the Buccaneers beat the Panthers, have the Falcons win, the Panthers win the division at 8-9, and they have some history of being under 500, winning a division. Cardinals know that, and the Panthers would get to host a playoff game at 8-9.
And if you're the LA Rams, I mean, think about the outcome. If you win, you most likely would play that NFC South winner as the 5th seed.
Yeah.
Now, depending on what happens in the Niners Seahawks, I get it. But, that's where it comes into play, because do you want to go back to Philadelphia, for example? Do you want to go back and risk another snow game, that playoff game you lost last year?
But the thing about that is the Rams will know what they have to do against the Cardinals, because the 49ers Seahawks game is on Saturday night. So if the 49ers end up beating the Seahawks, the Rams can't move off of 6. Now, if the Seahawks beat the 49ers, then the Rams game becomes meaningful in terms of seeding.
Okay, gotcha.
I do have one final sidebar, a bit of a different note. I've just been seeing, as we wrap up 2025 and get ready for 2026, and we still have another game to cover, right? So we'll still have Underground for that next week. But I have been seeing a lot of comments from fans online. I'm sure the both of you have as well, especially with your mailbag, of frustrations of this year and of this season. And I want to make sure that we acknowledge that we understand. And we are in a different position, because we're sitting here in a podcast studio with mics in front of us talking about the team as opposed to just being fans. And so, yes, right, we have to a certain degree a different perspective on how we look at the game and the season as a whole and the players and from fans, and I understand that. But I also want to say, we understand it's frustrating, and we understand that it can be tough at times to show up every week for a team or to tune in to our podcast and our content and all of those things. And I just want to make sure that the fans who continue to do that and support us and support the team, it is much appreciated. And there are times where we don't talk just football, right? Because you get to a point in the season where you're trying to kind of change things up a little bit. So I know I speak for us when I say that we appreciate those who continue to tune in, and we're here all year long. Every week in the off season, we somehow find things to talk about. So don't leave us quite yet.
That was well said there, Dani.
Thank you.
Not sure I can
Going into
add.
2026 with good vibes.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I can't add to that, and I really shouldn't add to that. So we'll just leave it at that. This episode of Cardinals Underground brought to you by Pacific Office Automation.
Happy New Year, everybody.